Good morning, everyone. It's a little too much to take in very quickly. Clearly, I am nervous, as you can tell, but it's always nice to have Mom next to you. And all parents, families, and graduates today, it is awesome to see all of you here getting ready to share one of the happiest moments and milestones in your life. And for me to be the Chancellor of the University of Waterloo, to have that opportunity to share it with you. Welcome. It is my honor to be the University of Waterloo's 12th Chancellor. I mean, clearly, I would never have dreamt of being Chancellor of the university where I went to school, ever. But here I am, and that is because this is a unique institution, and all of you make it special, especially our diverse and very inclusive community here at the University of Waterloo. Of course, I want to thank the Academic Senate as well for endorsing and appointing me to this role. Everyone here on stage today, President and Vice Chancellor Vivek Goel, and this incredibly beautifully dressed audience I have behind me, and I'm learning about all the colors. I've got certainly a lot of competition for my turban colors now going forward. It's truly a privilege and a humbling honor to be here today. All of my family and friends that have come from near and far, having you celebrate this moment with me today is very special. I'm feeling blessed, I'm feeling thankful, but most importantly, I'm feeling pretty lucky tonight. As I embark on this ceremonial role as Chancellor, I'm also very eager to learn from our Indigenous elders and communities. That's my first time participating in the ceremony. And I can tell you, if you want to get an energy boost in the morning, that is the exact way to do it. I am inspired by the work you do, Elder Henry, and that this work, our work here at the University of Waterloo, should lead to a sustainable world for future generations. And this is all part of the Waterloo at 100 vision. So thank you for inviting me to come back home. Home is where your parents live. It's where I grew up to be the person that I am today. It's where I attended this university and earned all 3 of my degrees. It's also where I can get a Tim Hortons coffee whenever I want to get one. My family emigrated to Waterloo 36 years ago. My parents, both teachers, Dad and Mom, had been living in Nigeria, Africa, for 30 years. My sister Aradhna and I were both born and brought up in Nigeria. And along the way, in Nigeria, we added a brother, Amar Singh, to our family at the young age of 14 when he joined us. They're all with me here today. Like every parent who dreams of the best education possible for their children, my parents dreamed of emigrating to Canada. So at the Canadian Consulate in Nigeria, the immigration officer asked my dad where in Canada our family would be moving. And my dad said, well, my son needs to go to engineering school and my daughter needs to go to medical school. That was pretty much the standard dream among Indian families back then. The immigration officer said he knew just the place, the University of Waterloo, his community, which had a great engineering school. So my dad wrote to request an application form. Now, I did have a dream, maybe not the dream of being a chancellor, but I love airplanes. And I always have loved airplanes, and I wanted to be an aerospace engineer. And Waterloo did not have an aerospace engineering degree back then. Nonetheless, when I was 15 years old, the four of us packed our bags from Nigeria for Waterloo, and we arrived in 1988, and 2 days later, I started my first day of mechanical engineering, the closest I could get to aerospace engineering. My sister later moved to Sweden, where she now has been working as a physician for 30 years. But before she left, she met her future husband, Ashok Kakar, who had been working on his PhD at the University of Waterloo. And for the past 35 years, my parents have been high school teachers in Kitchener-Waterloo. So many of their students have come to the University of Waterloo, and I'm willing to bet there's got to be one student here today that is a student of Mr. or Mrs. Bachher in the audience. That immigration officer in Nigeria literally changed the course of all of our lives. You can tell that I am fully invested in Waterloo and Kitchener. Education is the currency in which all of us here today are invested. Education brings opportunities. It improves lives and makes the world a better place. Education is also what is going to be the neutralizing force to help solve inequality around the world, which is one of the biggest challenges we all have to tackle. So to my parents, thank you, and I deeply love you. To all the parents here today, thank you for dreaming to send your children to the University of Waterloo. And today, I have been installed as your global ambassador. The immigration officer in Nigeria was a global ambassador for the University of Waterloo too. And I call on all of you to remain global ambassadors of the University of Waterloo. Wherever you are, never forget this institution. The education you've received in the classroom and through co-op program, the values and the experience instilled in you have the power to change lives. Sometimes even the life of a 15-year-old Indian boy of Sikh cultural heritage, born and brought up in Africa. So I'd like to share a story about my own time studying at the University of Waterloo. After I got my Bachelor's of Applied Sciences, I was antsy. I wanted to get a job straight away. My parents had other plans. However, they wanted me to get a PhD. My parents could not afford to finish their PhDs, so I was living their dream. So I did the master's in a year to make them happy, but no way I thought was I gonna go for a PhD. And then my master's supervisor, Dr. Paul Guild, who's also here today, convinced me otherwise. Then I spent 5 years getting my doctorate, and I studied, and I see all of you up front here, I studied how investors make decisions to invest in early stage technology companies. And then I was antsy again. I wasn't sure how I would use my PhD to get a job. I didn't want to be an academic. A PhD had been my parents' dream. But okay, I thought, I actually did enjoy learning about investments. And I also tried being an entrepreneur along the way. All of that was fun and it was interesting. But still, flash forward 14 years to the University of California, where I now serve as the Chief Investment Officer. At UC is where I realized quite concretely how that PhD was paying off. What I had been doing all those years before was building knowledge through experiences, through human interactions, through many aha moments. I hadn't quite connected before. I hadn't fully trusted the wisdom of others, my parents, my mentors, my family and friends who had my best interest at heart. Now I might as well carry a Sharpie around in my pocket because I'm so busy connecting dots. I think that's what makes me good at what I do now. I do build on knowledge and experience that I may not have fully appreciated at the time. Today, as you heard, I manage $187 billion at the University of California. That amount is double from when I started a decade ago. And you know what? That PhD not only makes my parents proud, but me as well. And now, as Waterloo Chancellor, I'm the institution's first alum to fill the role, having earned 3 degrees right here. I mention this because at times we don't trust the wisdom of those who love us and have our best interests at heart. We are impatient or discouraged, or we don't fully appreciate our own potential. My message to you is this: trust the people who care for you. Have faith in those who know you well. Your own judgment and humility will be the better for it. I am blessed to have my PhD advisor, Dr. Paul Guild, here today. And this is the 3rd time he is watching me on this stage. By the way, now I would absolutely love to get another PhD from the University of Waterloo. This time in aerospace engineering. When I can find some spare time, we have an aerospace engineering program. So let's talk about getting a job. When I was an undergrad, I kept in touch with a guest speaker, Patrick Lavelle, who I'd invited to my student club. At the time, he was chairman of the Canadian Council of Aboriginal Affairs. He always gave me sound advice, and he became an important mentor and friend to me. Years later, he told me I needed discipline and focus. He suggested I switch from being an entrepreneur and get a real job. He may change his mind today. I asked him, how in the world would I find a real job since I'd been out of school for 3 years? Make a list of companies and CEOs I admired, he said. Draft a resume? Okay, I did. Then Patrick wrote a cover letter on my behalf and requested off these 30 company heads that they take a meeting with me. I still have that list, 30 companies in Waterloo and Toronto. So I got all the meetings, but in addition to meetings, I got bombarded with rejections. My value wasn't appreciated, and my interviewers wondered why a PhD would be applying for an entry-level job. But one of the meetings was with the CEO of Manulife Financial, Dominic D'Alessandro, a big meeting for me. I left that meeting excited. Dominic had given me 2 pieces of advice. First, he said, don't worry about titles, because I would eventually gravitate to the best fit for me. And don't worry about salary, he said, because if you're any good, you'll make 10 times my starting salary within 10 years. I left energized that this important man had seen something in me. His introduction led me to Leo de Beaver, who's here in the audience tonight, a highly regarded Canadian investor, my first boss. I eventually worked for Leo for about 10 years in different roles in Manulife and in Alberta. He gave me the opportunity to learn, to be entrepreneurial, to explore, to travel the world, to be curious, and really learn how to run an investment organization and become an investor. Oh, and I did end up making 10 times my salary. 30 years later, I still have the same mentor. Patrick has given me more than I can ever imagine or give back. The only thing he asks of me is that I pay it forward and continue to give back to others that are earlier in their journey. I remain deeply grateful to Patrick and Leo, who are in the audience today. And if you're watching online, Patrick, lots of love to you. I appreciate you beyond words. I promise to give back in all ways I can to our students at the University of Waterloo and to this institution as a whole. So now for the future. Look, I'm an investor and I'm curious about what's next. I can tell you that as an investor, universities are the best places to find ideas. The talent is right here. You dream of new ways to solve problems. And solving problems means opportunities. You've lived through exciting and interesting times over the past 5 years. Your ability to adapt to change is your single biggest asset. Whether you're looking for a job, doing graduate work, or pitching an idea to an investor. You've made friends to team up with and collaborate. You have a sense of what your values are. You know what excites you, what you care about. Today's a happy milestone. You are ready to take on the world. It has taken me 24 years from the time I left campus to stand here today as your chancellor. In fewer than 20 years from now, one of you sitting here today will become the chancellor of the University of Waterloo. One of you will become Prime Minister of Canada. And one of you will also become a Nobel Prize winner. At least one for all of the above. Some of you will even become billionaires. And there will be many, many more accomplishments and milestones along the way. But remember this, you can't do it alone. Life is a journey. We get a degree, as you are doing today. So many people help to make that happen. Some stay with us and others leave. But we must always remember them and their contributions to our journey. We must remain grateful. We have a lot to get done, and we can't do it alone. Take a moment today and give a big hug to your loved ones who have come here to celebrate you. And take lots of pictures every single day to create memories. So as I conclude, if you don't mind, I'm going to take my own advice. I would like to take a selfie with all of you. Thank you very much. Congratulations. And I look forward to serving as the 12th Chancellor of the University of Waterloo.